All right. So anyway, thanks for having this opportunity. I'm actually going to not just talk about student karaoke videos, but also talk about the songs that I've written for my Natural History of Georgia class. Okay, I'm just going to go through the slides. As I said, I joined the meeting late, so I don't know if all of this has been covered. Pretty much y'all should know this anyway, so I'm just going to say my purpose in doing what I do with music is to raise the level of pedagogy from passive learning to active learning. Okay, so it's a long, winding story about how I got into playing the ukulele, but I did learn to play the ukulele starting at, I guess, age 58. So if I can do it, you can do it too. I went a couple of years without grants, but I teach this large non-major science class. So I thought, my goodness, I have all these experimental subjects sitting out there. How can I utilize this large classroom situation? So thinking of my recently acquired skills with the ukulele, I decided to write a bunch of songs. And the songs are all, can you see my cursor? Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Hearing you, yes. Seeing your cursor, no.
Okay. Well, you can see the YouTube channel that there are 12 songs on. That's not a hot link. It's just different colored text. Anyway, here's the CD, and you can see there are a variety of songs. And what I'm going to do now, hopefully, is play some excerpts of these songs. So these are songs that I play the music, I wrote the lyrics.
King Philip came over for good spaghetti. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
And these are what the videos look like on the YouTube channel.
Now old man Linnaeus, he had a good plan. Raise structure from chaos in arrangement that spans. Well, these are different species, your professor, he do say, 'cause they can't ever hook up in any form or way. Reproductive isolation, that's the key, man. We're not different species if baby makes 3. What's a limiting resource? We all want to know. Defined by its function, it changes to and fro. Increase availability, a species fitness grows. Could be habitat, hasty prey, or shelters in a row. Natural selection makes evolution go. Charlie Darwin knew it, Alfred Wallace ever so. 3 types of selection that we can allow. They stabilize, they disrupt, or direct a trait somehow.
This one's a little different because it actually has...
I'm just a 6-foot rat snake, climbing up a red oak tree, minding my own business. Why don't you let me be? I'm looking for some birdies, they make the nicest treats. I like them when they're in the nest, I can hear them go cheep cheep.
So that's an anthropomorphic song.
Standing in the flatwoods, field guide in my hand, trying to key out pine trees growing in the sand. How many trees can there really be? Those piney flatwoods blues, they got a hold of me.
Okay, so those are just excerpts of the songs that are on the YouTube channel, and they cover the range of songs that I've done for these classes, starting out with concepts, then going to species, and then going to habitat types. So how did I evaluate student responses? This was the first thing I did, and it's not a very sophisticated analysis because I really didn't know anything about educational research or survey research. So I just gave out Likert-scale questionnaires to two different sections of the course. And long story short, I mean, most of the questions actually were about not attitudinal questions. They were more discussing the mechanics of the class. Anyway, there were really strong positive responses, however, and you know, the three most important here are that the students indicated that their attitude towards class was improved because of the songs, as well as their attitudes towards studying, and they liked hearing these songs. We've spent a little bit of time in this meeting talking about kind of the quality of songs and producing, you know, a really tight song. And I guess I have to say that an alternate approach is you know, kind of putting it out there as a professor and not necessarily striving for perfection, but using song to show that you're human. Maybe you're not always on tune. I mean, I've found in my teaching, I'm an old guy. I'm in my 38th year of teaching. I've found that students absolutely like nothing better than seeing a professor make a fool of themselves in front of the class. So I want to make a little bit of a pitch for non-perfection, although I'll admit in my own songs I strive for perfection. Okay, so so I was talking to a guy in the ed school, and you know, again, this is when I first started getting interested in music, but also more in innovative pedagogy. And he said, oh, you know, there's this thing called active learning, and you ought to have the students do these songs. And, you know, my first response, having just put together the music, lyrics, etc., recording 12 songs, was, oh, no student could ever do this. And then I started thinking about how it could be adapted so that students could do that. And so this is an exercise that I use. I've used it, well, I use it in everything from graduate classes to, for the first year, a first year seminar class that I teach that all first year students have to take. And so depending on the class, they can choose their own topic, although pretty much all the classes I teach, these are kind of the relative or relevant ways things break up. They can get the video and the music off the web, but the students have to write the lyrics, and they have to sing, rap, or if they're really timid, they can talk them. And so they have to put all this together into a video. And so the the grade is based primarily on the amount of information and its accuracy, a little bit on technical quality and creativity. I've done this in 8 courses. I got so excited about the results in the first 2 that I wrote a little paper and published that. And then I've just had a paper come out in the Journal of College Science Teaching that has data from the remaining 6 classes. And I'm just going to present a partial analysis of the data. So, so the test courses, 3 test courses were these first-year student seminars, and the one that I teach is on the natural history of Athens and Georgia. 3 different annual classes of my natural history of Georgia class, which is a general education course that's focused on non-science majors, but I get about 30% science majors in the class. And then I've done it in 2 different grad seminars, one a seminar on fish ecology and another one on vertebrate conservation. So I've had the students do the exercise in the Natural History of Georgia class. It's a group exercise. In the other classes, it's either an individual exercise or sometimes done with a partner. Everybody had a fairly similar, or every class had a fairly similar Likert-scale questionnaire. Obviously, each one was tailored to the class. And then the students that agreed to triangulation interviews were asked these very open-ended questions. So getting down to a kind of second-level analysis of the Likert-scale data, I was interested in whether or not the number and actually the percentage of positive responses differed among these very different classes. And in fact, they didn't. I was interested in whether the students had a preference for different aspects of the exercise, and you can see them here. Am I speaking too fast, or is everybody getting this?
You're doing great.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds
Yeah,
good
sounds
to me,
great.
Gary.
Okay. I was interested in having some kind of control on accurate self-reporting, and I did that by asking what their expected grade was, and because all the questionnaires were signed, I could then go back and look at what they were actually getting. And it turned out, interestingly, pretty much everybody was honest there, so I assumed that they were honest in their responses to the other questions. I was also interested in whether attendance had an effect, thinking maybe the students who didn't come to class much wouldn't have liked it, but it turned out that almost everybody came to class almost all the time. So it wasn't a very powerful test. And so this slide is busy. I apologize for that. Here on the left-hand side, you can see the questions that were asked. All you really need to focus on is the color of the entries here. Here are the classes, 2 sections. I don't know why I don't have the 3rd section in there of my Natural History of Georgia class. These are the first-year seminars, and then this is the Conservation Biology class. So if a number is red, it means the number of positive responses were above 80%. If it's blue, it means they were between 60 and 79%. And clearly the students, they really like this exercise, regardless of the class. I can leave this up for a minute if people need more time to. I can't see the chat, so I don't really know if people are asking questions or.
We do have a question from Walter. Which ones are the graduate seminars?
Okay. Let me see. Can I go back? I can't seem to go back. Oh, maybe this will work. Okay, so this is the graduate seminar. There were only 6 students in the class, and then the data from the other graduate seminar are it's in the early paper that I published on this. And the responses are pretty similar. So does that answer your question, Walter?
He says, yes, it does.
Okay. So these, another interesting thing I wanted to test, and I don't know if my screen is kind of blocked by this control bar, but it should say musical experience significantly affected the percent of positive responses. So I asked people to classify their musical experience as low, average, or high. And if you analyze these data in a non-parametric analysis of variance, you find that the students with low musical experience actually had a significantly lower number of positive responses than the students with average or high musical experience. So, there is some indication that if you had a class with a lot of students who didn't have any musical experience, then this might be a problematical exercise. Nonetheless, there's still a lot of positive responses. You can see it's 139 versus 182 and 186. So it's not like they didn't like it or there weren't a lot of a lot of positive responses. It's just that it was pretty overwhelming in these two groups and lower in the low group. Okay, so here were the triangulation interview questions again. What we did was a very rudimentary kind of trend analysis. The purpose of these questions really is just to give the student an opening and then listen carefully to whatever they want to say. And so this is just a sample of 12 triangulation interviews from my Natural History of Georgia class, the 2015 class. We classified responses as positive, neutral, or negative based on the wording of the students. I liked it, that was positive. I hated it, that was negative. And neutral was like, well, it was okay, all right? So you can see there were a lot of positive responses. And then we went on and actually recorded the number of students that gave responses that indicated that this was an authentic experience, that it was something they hadn't had before, that it was creative, etc. And you can see, most importantly, we got a lot of students who expressed not only that it was enjoyable, but that it represented a form of deep learning that they hadn't really had before. The triangulation interviews, especially in this class because it's a group project, 4 students per group, there were some negative responses. There were a couple of students that complained about unequal effort. There was a group member who really didn't do anything. And then quite frequent was this complaint that it was difficult to schedule everybody in the group together. So I deal with this actually by having a student evaluation, that the students within a group all evaluate each other. And if 2 students in a 4-person group give another member an unsatisfactory rating, then their grade is lowered. And I don't grade these things very harshly. Really, it's the idea is that it's a process, not, there's no rubric to. I mean, there is a rubric and there is a grading rubric, but and I probably should have had slides with those, but the point is this is more of an experiential exercise within class and active because they have to research a topic of interest to them. And here are what these student karaoke videos look like.
Away in a river, some stones for a bed. The old mother sturgeon smell she is led.
Oh my god. Ockering Sporbushka, look at his hump. It is so big. Ugh. I like dorsal humps and I cannot lie. All these other females can't deny. When hook no swims in with his pretty pink skin and a fat clump in your face, you get courtship. When I spread my eggs and jeans so you know we need cold cream, spread our jeans at sharing. I'm simple parity and not caring. Oh.
So this is a video about an invasive species, cane toad, which is introduced in portions of the United States, but is really a problem in Alaska. Alaska, what am I saying? Australia.
15 centimeters. I like my habitat open and clear. Introduce my species to different places. I successfully entered Hawaii. I went to Australia to save the cane, but sadly we were an invasive species. I was supposed to eat the beetles. The cane beetles were the threat. I was supposed to eat the beetles, but that's not what happened. Didn't happen, cause I had no shelter.
Here's a song about mimicry, malaria and Baitian. What's manian and aggressive? Woo! Let's jump right in. Malaria and we're together to survive. We look alike, if you eat us you will die. This is all so crazy. Predators learn to stay away. Johan Miller studied butterflies in Brazil. He's talking different of species.
All right, I'm going to stop it a little early because I'd like to leave a little bit of time for questions. So the first two videos were done by graduate students, and the second two that you saw were done by first and second year students in my Natural History of Georgia class. So just to summarize, my little songs and videos improve students' attitude towards class and studying. The analysis of the karaoke videos, which actually deals with 8 classes, you know, shows overwhelmingly, if I do say so myself, positive responses. Musical experience did affect the number of positive responses in a statistically significant, albeit not super strong way. And the interviews indicated that the exercise really served its purpose in terms of being something new, something creative, a deeper learning process, and yet at the same time was really enjoyable. And so here are the publications that deal with both my videos and the student karaoke videos, and I'll be glad to send anybody a PDF of these. And this just shows there is hope at the end of the rainbow. All right, well, thanks for your patience. It's really quite odd giving a talk and not being able to hear the audience or see any reactions, but I hope this was useful for you.
You did a great job. And Rick gave you a digital clap.
Okay. Yeah, Rick, I'd like to, I'm going to contact you too, because it seems like we're doing similar things. And I don't know, Monty, if you're focusing on biological topics or not, but I'd love to hear from anybody who's, in particular, who's working with biology, but also just, you know, to kind of drink whiskey and talk about what we're doing.